Hiya, Jason.
Hey, how you doing, Alex? I really appreciate you inviting me on here. I know we've known each other for a couple of years, but I'm looking forward to this.
Now you can get to meet the audience as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. I am going to take you back to your last year in school, as I do with all of my guests, just to see where you were frame of mind. Were you the person who just wanted to go out and explore the world? Were you the academic, or did you just want to start earning some money? What was your sort of mindset at the time?
But the mindset at the time, I left college and I was actually doing sports psychology
Oh,
and lots of different areas around that. And I left going, well, I don't think this is the area that I was good athletics wise, and I was running a lot and representing my county. And I went into that area thinking that's the area that I wanted to get into. But then at 18, I decided to just leave and get some work. So I worked with my dad. To be honest with you, I wanted to work in Disney World. So I went over to America on my own. I was supposed to go with a friend and went to Florida for 3 months. Sounds like I had a wonderful time. And I did have a wonderful time. The only thing I missed out was the green card. So I was trying to get into Disney World, trying to do that. It wasn't until I got back, then I started to explore getting back to the US. But life got into the way. I started working and went into retail because I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. But I was fascinated by people, but also fascinated by other people. And I've always had that in my mind. Because helping others achieve their own success has always been sort of a gut feel in my stomach, but I never had the direction of where I wanted to go. So got into retail, and then I started managing shops and became a retail manager. I was managing multiple stores outside of London, and then went into central London because I'm an Essex boy.
All right. I mean, that's quite interesting. If you think of the dynamics, I mean, you go into retail, you're dealing with customers. That in itself is a challenge. I've been there, done that, have the badge, so I wouldn't be mad keen to rush back into it. But also then, I mean, to take over a leadership role and then to be running, management level and then interacting with managers of your own level below you, above you. How did you find all of that?
I like that. I like to work with my peers as well, because we all, even back then, thinking back, we used to share and collaborate ideas.
All right.
And that was good. And there was obviously certain challenges that you would get in the structure and the organization, but we used to share best practices then, which was interesting. But I knew in my heart of hearts, what I wanted to do was, over a period of time, is I wanted to be a salesperson. I wanted to go out and B2B salesperson. And I gave the biggest challenge of my life was working in the city of London, and my patch was selling digital photocopies. At that time, it was all digital.
Right.
They were all connected to a computer. Wow, all connected. So, which seems a little bit funny looking back at that, but it was advanced then. And my patch was the city of London. And then I got I was working on the contract for the MOD and the NHS and all that. Right. So I went to really funny locations. I was in London last week, actually. I was looking down at number 10, going past there, and I was going, I actually went into the Treasury building. I remember going into it, and I was going, I went into that, and also went into the MOD buildings. And this is how you can gain experience by people and different sides of life.
Sure.
And I remember going into the Mall, and it was an MOD building, and I went to a lift down, and I think I went down about 5 or 6 levels until it was all restricted. And I remember going there, and there was soldiers and all of that there, and it was it was interesting to say the least. So I had a good, interesting wealth of experience working with an eclectic array of different types of businesses and organizations.
It's interesting. I've done it myself. I've delivered some work to the military here. They're a different customer altogether.
Yeah, oh, totally different. And I've done that here in Ireland now with the civil service. So it's slightly different, but it's still impact. You still deliver impact.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, digital photocopiers. There's a time and a place. something else would have lured you away. So what was on your mind then?
Well, the rise and the birth of websites, and everyone was, Google was around, and Yahoo and all of that. So everyone wanted a website. Everyone wanted not HDMI, but they all wanted fast internet, or fastish, and they all wanted an email. And it was all of that. And businesses, small to medium-sized enterprises, wanted to be online, but they didn't know why they wanted to be online. They just wanted, because everyone else said that it was that social proof, and saying, well, we need one. And my patch was the West End of London at that time.
Right.
And it was very interesting times. I loved it. But we had 50 million investment by BT at that time. They invested into the company that I was working with.
Wow.
So it was an interesting time, but obviously, like .com bubbles, it burst because it was based on whatever. I think it was
smoke
based
and
on
mirrors.
smoke. It was smoke and mirrors. So it was quite funny because I was speaking to someone else the other day. I've been involved in lots of different areas, like the .com bubble burst. I think it was the 2007, 2008, where the financial crisis went.
Yes.
And now COVID, and now there's elements of other scarcity going out there with another crisis going out. And I was looking back and going, well, I've been through quite a few. So there's lots of fundamental things that you should be doing in these times of adversity.
Sure.
And it's no different to any other time that we've been through. And I'm looking at the younger people out there at the moment, which I think are phenomenal, but it's their first time experiencing it,
right,
or going through it. I know COVID was slightly different for everyone, but
yes,
now there's elements of new stuff actually happening into the world. And I think it's just a matter of just tightening our belts a little bit. And
yeah, there's challenges. There's always going to be challenges.
Yes.
I mean, you and I have been around long enough, well, me longer than you, to see these are cycles, and they will keep coming around. And as I say, the next recession is one day closer as we get one day further from the last one.
They say it's about every 10 years. And if you have a look at it, it is about every 10 years. I think in 1990, there was a property bubble and burst. In the UK, there was specifically. I wasn't sure what it's like in Ireland.
Yeah. No, it is. No, there certainly was. So anyway, you followed on from the websites, but you were going to move on from there. What was next on your bucket list of where you were to be going?
But it's a bit of a funny one, because I started working in ambient advertising, self-employed, and that was interesting as well. I was completely self-employed. I had people making appointments for me, and I was going out selling advertising to medium-sized enterprises in the UK. But then I stopped and I went off traveling. I went to New Zealand and stopped off in Australia, and then went around Southeast Asia. I sort of gave it up. Then I met an Irish lady and came back and started this up in Ireland as well. Some ambient advertising, and also back of the buses and that type of advertising as well. Then I moved to Ireland. So
we'll talk about that in just a second. And if you're just joining me now, you're listening to You and Your Business with me, Alec Drew, on 103.2 Dublin City FM, where my studio guest today is Jason Cooper. You might explain, we were just talking about ambient advertising, you might explain to our audience what ambient advertising is.
It's the advertising that you see unconsciously when you're, as an example, is you see a bus going past and it has something about Lucozade as an example, or whatever. You see it and go, that goes into the back of your brain, and it will emerge when you go to a convenience store, supermarket, or wherever, and you see Lucozade. So it picks, or you see it on TV. So it's all connected through that. So it's unconscious advertising that gets into the subconscious. And I was also doing the video stuff on screens as well. So there's all, I like the approach of ambient advertising, because it does get into the unconscious mind.
I thought they had some sort of ban on some of that sort of advertising at one stage, or did they just throw it to one side and forget it?
Yeah, it's not quite uh,
Subliminal.
manipulation. I don't think it's quite that, but but it does. It's like TV advertising. Like we get it all the time. So it's how we control our mind to actually go, well, okay, I'm not really into Lucozade. It's not really my drink,
Yeah.
or whatever.
I suppose I'm thinking more of subliminal advertising,
Yeah,
where that hidden message goes through without you really seeing it at all.
but I think we get that all the time anyway. We get
Right.
the subliminal advertising and marketing to us all the time. We're all influenced and we all have biases in the way that we view the world and how we are influenced. But not only by that, we're also influenced by people and things around us and
Sure.
how we view and see the world. And it's an interesting area to think about on how we are manipulated
Yes.
and how we view the world.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. Sometimes, you'll hear people humming ads, which if you asked them what the ad was for, they couldn't tell you. So some of it works and some doesn't. So anyway, you were talking about traveling. You were off to partially Australia and then on to New Zealand. What was the experience like? I mean, we're into different cultures dealing with that. And I suppose it gave you a chance to explore the world as well.
New Zealand is probably one of the best places in the world
Right.
to go. Without, from my point of view, talking about my own bias, but New Zealand is slightly different. And I spent a lot of time in there and I did everything there. I did all the bungee jumps and whitewater rafting, throwing myself off cliffs and whatever else, because I'm into that sort of stuff. But the thing is, you go to the Southern Islands, where I stayed most of the time, and you have the climate, which is Antarctic. And then you go a little bit, and then you have glorious fjords and glaciers and mountains. And then you have all of the volcanic pastures where they grow the grapes. And then you have the volcanic springs. And then you go to the North Island, and it's up to the very top, you get beautiful beaches, which is almost subtropical. So you get a massive and eclectic array of different types of sceneries, and you just drive 50 miles and the scenery just changes. It's just phenomenal.
Wow. I must take a trip there. There we go. Something from my bucket list. So anyway, you were going to come back eventually after touring the world and seeing a lot. So coming back, you obviously going to have a challenge at finding something interesting to do for yourself. Were you going to pick up where you left off, or had you something else in mind?
Well, before I went traveling, I met an Irish lady in London, and we kept in contact. And I came back to London after traveling, and I picked up where I was, and then asked if I can transfer it to Ireland, which I did. And then I was working up in Northern Ireland for a while and commuting down to Dublin at the weekends. And then eventually we opened up an office, and then I was looking after a team of people here in Ireland. And I did that for about 5 years. Good fun, good experience. And being self-employed as a salesperson, as a team manager. And to be honest, I have to make this point, and you know this as well as us all. When you're in sales, you have to view yourself as being self-employed, regardless of whether you're working for an organization or not. If you're the self-making machine that you are, which you should be, see yourself as self-employed, because then you put a lot more work and effort into it.
Yes, I think that's a great tip for our listeners out there. Exactly. See yourself as self-employed. Good tip. Yeah. Good tip. Okay, so you still had itchy feet. You were going to do more. This take us on the journey further.
The journey further, I helped to start up a couple of businesses new into Ireland. I worked in an online advertising company, which would go through an algorithm and display ads on certain websites.
Wow. Okay.
There's a couple of different products there. One was almost like a stock exchange. People would bid for the highest ad that would be displayed on multitude of websites.
Interesting.
locally and globally. So I had to work with all advertising agencies and all of that. So that was a bit of fun.
I'd say
And
so.
then I co-founded a startup
Oh,
called Minto. We got €1 million of investment from the founders of Just Eat,
wow.
and it was to help independent fashion retailers
Okay.
locally. And because the company was already established in Scandinavia, that's where the founders of Just Eat were, and across Holland and down even to Spain, and they started up in the UK as well. So we were just on that journey as well. So that was really interesting. We had to find premises, we had to employ, recruit teams, we had to find out different metrics to advertise the services, and also we had a photography studio as well.
Oh, great. So all the products had to be photographed, and wow, it's amazing. I mean, a completely different challenge altogether. That and a shifting and dynamic marketplace. That must
Yeah,
have been interesting.
that was fascinating. And like at the moment, I had to learn everything that I could about fashion because I knew nothing. But really, when you're selling stuff, when you're helping and advising and giving service to others,
Hmm.
they have to just see the merits on how they can make money, because it's all
Okay.
about the other person. When you start to look at empathetic communication, it is all about them, and it's all about value that you can give the clients that you give and operate to.
Yes, and it's never about you. And that's, I think, again, a valuable lesson for most listeners. They're always talking about from their perspective. I do this, we do this. Nobody really cares.
Yeah,
It's from the client's perspective.
yeah,
What's in it for me?
yeah. It's always about them. I think sometimes people lose perspective when you start to go I, and you go, well, it's okay. Like, it's building up trust, it's building up your credibility, it's building up foundational things about you, but it's not really about you.
No.
It's what you built up over the time, which is great for credibility, and it's how others speak about you, but it's all about the client at the end of the day, as you know.
And if you're just joining us now, you're listening to You and Your Business with me, Alec Drew, on 103.2 Dublin City FM, where my studio guest today is Jason Cooper. Let's just take it on, Jason. Okay, so you still haven't completed your journey. You've still another couple of steps to go. So what was next on that pathway?
Well, I consulted within the startup community with a Russian-based company that would do people tracking, which took me overseas, took me to Germany, took me to France, Paris, and also a couple of weeks in Silicon Valley, where I had to help VC funding. And because of the way that I speak, I presented in front of about 200 venture capital companies in Silicon Valley, then met the likes of IBM. God, there was a whole load of San Francisco banks and international banks, and there was a lot of companies that we met over there because we wanted to make strategic alignments, but we also needed investment as well. Enterprise Ireland were very good. They matched funds, and we had other VC funds. So, but the job out there was to look for opportunities, look for growth, also look for investment as well. So that was a bit of fun. I really enjoyed that, and I made huge amount of connections as well.
I suppose if you were to sort of give our listeners any advice around that, I mean, in one sense, you're nearly pitching to an audience of people who are looking for opportunities to invest. Have you any sort of tips you might share around that as to an approach to it?
Make sure that the product and service works. When you're pitching, as an obvious one, really, make sure that you get an accolade of clients already working with you, whether they're testing in beta mode, whether they're doing something, but make sure that you have clients there. Make sure that you have a good systemic process that people like and people want to invest in.
Sure.
And make sure that you get advice, get a mentor, get mentorship, get a coach, get someone that can actually look at the products and services that you have and operate from a different perspective. And the good thing is there is so many. Enterprise Ireland are phenomenal, but there are other companies out there that will give you help and advice as well. that can help you grow. There's lots of different ways around that. The American market's slightly different. They naturally assume initially that as long as they can see that you have customers, as long as they can see growth,
Right.
they will look into you. And it's slightly different for the Irish market because it's a smaller market.
Sure.
So just be curious about who you would work with and make sure there's some really good synergy. The amount of times I hear some scare stories that they just cannot work with their investors, but it's a two-way process. So you have to work with them and they have to work with you.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has it from their perspective, and they have their needs, you have your needs, and where they meet in the middle somewhere should be where it should be.
Yeah.
It's interesting as you're talking about that, and you mentioned the importance of having a coach or a business mentor of some sort. I again just talk about that, and we'll come to you in a few minutes in the sense of where you are today. But maybe as your journey came along, what sort of coaching and mentorship did you have, and how did it impact you?
But it impacted me massively. And I'm still in contact with my mentor from Silicon Valley.
Wow.
He's just phenomenal. And I've interviewed him on my podcast, which we'll talk about in a few moments. It's just incredible. He's a really good, nice person. And I've made really good friendship with him as well. So we constantly in contact. I want to hear for what he's doing. And he's constantly giving me help and advice, even now, even since 2016, when I was out there, it's constantly given me good. And I think this is the way I look at it. Forget our egos and push them to one side for a second. I think if you're a coach, if you're a mentor, if you're a trainer, get help, get advice, get a coach yourself, get a coach in different areas. I'm a coach, I'm a facilitator, I'm a trainer, but push my ego down. I need help as well. And that's where sometimes we all forget that having these conversations help us grow and help us make others better as well. So the better that we can be helped, the better that we can help other people.
Yeah, I mean, certainly business is a lifelong journey, and you're always having to learn, and you can't learn yourself. You do need people to help you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a journey. And since 2016, I've had a bit of a roller coaster of a ride of doing it myself.
All right.
And acquiring new knowledge and acquiring new skills along the way, but also having fun as well with what I do. Like I've changed what my approach since I started doing what I'm doing now, because it's on that constant trail, and I've had to have help. Going, well, my branding's not quite right. Okay, I need to repivot that. My messaging is completely wrong. I need to do that. What I'm saying is completely wrong. I need to do that as well. And I remember having an interesting conversation with you way back. And said, you said, I don't really understand that. You need to change that. I went, oh, right. But the good thing is, I have to, as a business person now, I have to sort of go, okay, well, let me take that on board. Let me take some advice and let me see what I can do with it.
Sure.
And sometimes our ego does get in the way. Sometimes it doesn't. And go, well, that's a good idea. Let me mind map that out and maybe break something out of that I can use and utilize.
Yeah, no, it is. We all are learning. And as you said, the only thing that gets in the way of that is ego. No, we think we know everything.
Yeah.
Maybe explain. I mean, we've about 5 minutes left on the show. Let's talk about what you're doing today, and why you and what makes a difference for what you're doing, and who typically your potential clients are.
Well, we're going to collect it range of clients. So I work globally on leadership within Google at the moment.
All right.
I'm lucky enough to work with them, so I'm delighted to contract myself in there. So at the moment, I do a different array of different things. I do global leadership training,
right,
on every aspect. I also coach managers to coach their team. So I train on coaching. I also do a lot of sales training, but also I'd like to do it from the brain focused and how people buy and how people gain trust, and how you can build up your personal brand and your personal profile to make yourself look attractive to your clients and get other people to sell for you, as opposed to you selling yourself. with your skills, because it is about those little incremental touch points along the way and how to make people feel good about you, and how other people can actually tell a wonderful story about you to other people. And that's where I like to be. I'm still looking at the way to get through to that. But I love that. I also run a global sales leadership podcast, as I said in the intro.
Right.
And I do interview some phenomenal people from around the globe, the likes of the son of the legendary Zig Ziglar, Tom Ziglar.
All right.
People like him. I've also, just an eclectic way of people. The way I look at it is I want other people to learn and grow by taking one golden nugget by each and every podcast that I present. But inadvertently, when I do that, I learn from someone else. And I take that all into myself because it helps me learn and grow as well.
Right. And it's fantastic. Just where can people find out more about that?
They can find out from jasoncooper.io. You can email me. I have all my podcasts on my website. You can have a look on LinkedIn. I post regularly on LinkedIn. You'll find me. If you have a look at Jason Cooper, you'll find me definitely. So please connect. If you ever need anything, or you just want some advice, I'm happy to help and share, because it's that ripple effect.
Right.
Because inadvertently comes back to you.
I suppose in the sort of 2 minutes that we've got left, what would you like to share with our listeners that you think might be of value for them going forward? I mean, as we come to the end of one year, it's ready to start another year. Have you anything you would like to share?
If you're looking at 2023 now, God, I almost got that wrong then. Plan now. If you haven't planned already, make sure that you plan for the new year now, if you hadn't done it already, because it's coming up on us. It is November the 1st today. So fail to plan, you plan to fail. Make sure, and you know this as well, Alex, is listen to other people. Stay out of your own head. Then ask some wonderful questions around that. Empathy and empathetic communication is absolutely core to help find out the challenges and opportunities within other people and listen to understand. So very important. Yeah,
it's importance of planning. And have you any people lined up that you think they'll all be worth listening to, but have you anybody special lined up that for your podcast that you think will be...
Yeah, I've got a behavioral analyst coming up soon, and she's phenomenal. She's a body language expert. She's incredible. So I'm looking forward to that. And she works with Joe Navarro, which is one of the #1 global experts on body language. So if you've never heard of Joe Navarro, go out and read his books because they're incredible.
Right. So if you want to find out more about that, ladies and gentlemen, jasoncooper.io. Thank you, Jason, for coming into the You and Your Business studio.